to sacrifice his natural expansion, but that expansion did go up after his initial expansion, but I believe the initial expansion is a min only, so Bisu deprived of the second gas. Hwaisin has had the expansion running up in time. Now Bisu running up the map to counter with his forces. Really should try and counter here, but I'm not sure if he's got an observer in place to see that Hwaisin doesn't have a lot of armies in place, although I guess Bisu lost most of his forces trying to take Hwaisin down as well, and he realizes that it wouldn't be easy for him to break that front door. Hwaisin meanwhile has produced reinforcements. He's got a couple of sea shanks, a couple of vultures and marines at the choke of his natural expo, and Bisu indeed, yeah, doesn't have that second gas because that is a min only that he took initially rather than going for his natural expo. Again, an interesting choice of strategy from Bisu, and that phone going off again, guys. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to take a pause in the middle of this commentary. Sorry for the interruption, guys. Another Nexus now being built by Bisu at his National Expo. That was actually Mrs. Klazart, unfortunately for her, wilting without the attentions of the one and only Mr. Klazart, and she obviously called up to speak to me. Anyway, so Hwaisin now locking down his Natural Expo, realizing that Bisu is going to be countering here since he did lose a majority of his forces, and Hwaisin meanwhile is taking his min only as well, and if he can secure and hold his defense, he's going to have an economic advantage. Bisu sending in the lone Zealot to absorb some siege tank hits, but Hwaisin, this looks like it's going to be an interesting game, guys. Hwaisin with the early push, putting the pressure on Bisu, and being able to put enough pressure to take that Natural Expo down. Bisu had to sacrifice that, unfortunately. He just knew that he didn't have enough force, and if he tried to defend it, he might have ended up throwing the game. As it is, he is still in a decent position in terms of his economy, but he is going to be behind in his tech. He's going to be late getting those arbiters out because his second gas is only now going to get up and running, because that second gas has only been up for a short while before Hwaisin took it down. Hwaisin meanwhile has had his second gas up the entire time Bisu has had his his first expo up. Bisu now with the DT trying to just scout around Hwaisin with the vultures taking down. Hwaisin's comsat scans have been perfect. He sniped an observer earlier on that allowed him to make that push, and then he took down that DT, and now he's sending those vultures out to maraud and roam and try and scout out, and it looks like he's going to find an expansion. Bisu putting out another expansion at the just north of the 6 o'clock base. Obviously Bisu realizing Bisu has got that Arbiter Tribunal up as well. Despite being late on that second gas, he's got that Arbiter Tribunal up, so he is not doing too bad in terms of his tech, but Hwaisin has now spotted that out, and it's interesting. I wonder why Bisu's placed that Arbiter Tribunal in the place where it can potentially be scouted by Hwaisin. Hwaisin just circling over the vultures, trying to find an avenue to attack. Both players continue to macro up. That is one of the features of this map. Because of the choke points, you do see a very heavy macro-oriented game, especially when it's not a mirror matchup. Hwaisin just again putting spider mines around, sending a lone siege tank out that is going to get sniped probably by Bisu. It is being followed by that observer. 4 dragoons and a zealot heading in to snipe that siege tank that's trying to rendezvous with those, and Bisu meanwhile coming in for a drop at what looks like the 12 o'clock expo of Hwaisin's. Hwaisin has got spider mines up. It looks like he's trying to set up a defense at that base at the 9 o'clock position, but Bisu with the zealot getting taken down. The dragoons coming in. There are spider mines in play, but he's got an observer there as well, so Bisu should be able to take out. Hwaisin does manage to get the siege tank in siege mode, forcing the dragoons to come within range of the spider mines. 2 of the dragoons get taken off the spider mines. It's the 1 siege tank against the 3 dragoons. Bisu's got reinforcements coming in though, so he should be able to take the siege tank out, but Hwaisin really getting a lot of damage pound for pound there, but not able to get that siege tank up in position. Unfortunately, Bisu with the observer intercepting and scouting and not allowing Hwaisin to establish that, and Hwaisin trying to establish map control here, but right now you would feel that Hwaisin is in a strong place because he has got that 3 expansions, although Bisu has got his 4th expansion now up and running. He's got a good ground army as well, and this could be oh my god, Hwaisin catching a bunch of Bisu's probes en route. Bisu's probes, he managed to get about 6 to 8 probes down, and that's going to hurt Bisu big time. That is just one of those perfect timing intercepts that you just see so rarely. That is ninja skill, guys. Getting your attacking units in place, intercepting the opponent's weakness just when they least need you to, catching those probes as they were transferring, taking down half a dozen probes at least, and that's going to hurt the Protoss player big time. Hwaisin meanwhile continuing to macro up. Got a Goliath there, got a bunch of siege tank and vultures. Bisu trying to keep control of the map, but not really able to prevent Hwaisin from marauding with those vultures, and that really has been a feature of Terran play that we've seen recently. Terran players seem to be going back to that old school style of relying on vultures, relying on raids, and really that's the purpose of those vultures, and if you can use them effectively, they're cheap and they can deal so much damage to an opponent. Meanwhile, Bisu now setting up that expansion at the 7 o'clock position, his 5th base and his 4th expansion, and Bisu has got his economy in a strong place. Hwaisin meanwhile also looks like he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so really Hwaisin matching Bisu expansion for expansion here. Bisu needs to do something about this. So far Hwaisin has managed to keep him off balance, and Bisu needs to come back here and deliver some sort of a punch here. That was a real hurt for Bisu. The probes going down, that's going to really set him back, and that's not what he needed. Usually you expect the Protoss player to be doing the harassing with storm drops and DT drops, but Bisu just hasn't been able to do that. He's just played almost kind of a very defensive game, you have to say, although he did kind of try and be the aggressor later on. Hwaisin now coming in with the dropship, and it'll be interesting whether that dropship is just to reinforce that 9 o'clock position, or whether he's going to go for a harass at that expansion at the 7 o'clock position. It looks like Hwaisin's dropship is heading for that 7 o'clock position, and meanwhile he's using his vulture to distract Bisu, to keep him off balance. Normally it's Bisu that's famous for the multitasking. Bisu now using meanwhile Dragoons to clear out the mines in the middle of the map. He's not expecting this drop coming from at all from Hwaisin. Hwaisin dropping the siege tank and 2 vultures. The lone Dragoon gets taken out. Meanwhile Bisu coming with the shuttle to counter at the 11 o'clock expansion. That shuttle is going to get taken out. It only drops 2 zealots before it gets taken down. The shuttle goes, I think it might have had a Reaver or High Templar in it, but the zealots dropped first, and the high damage unit did not drop. Bisu does have zealots there, and now it's the SCVs fighting against zealots. A couple of SCVs sitting idle as well. Bisu is going to inflict significant damage with the zealots. Hwaisin meanwhile has laid some hurt on Bisu at the expansion. Bisu sending in Zelos to counter. Great counterplay between these 2 players here. Both players hurting each other. Bisu doing significant damage to the expansion at that 11 o'clock position. You'd have to say Bisu probably with the 2 Zelos did more damage because he's killed a bunch of SCVs. Hwaisin is still mining the gas from that expansion though, and he's going to be forced to use his dropship to retake that expansion. Meanwhile, Bisu hasn't been able to get any probes going at his expansion at the 7 o'clock position. Both players keeping the pressure on each other. Meanwhile, Bisu looks like he's effected a recall at Hwaisin's expansion at the 2 o'clock base, and Hwaisin is going to lose that command center to a group of almost a full group of Dragoons, and Hwaisin seems to have a large group of tanks and vultures just sitting in his base, not really doing anything, and that's going to hurt Hwaisin big time. Bisu delivers the first real punch after Hwaisin's early attack at that National Expo. Bisu taking out that 10 o'clock expansion with a great recall. Hwaisin not able to intercept, and Hwaisin only now has got the science buses out. He hasn't hit any EMPs, and really he's going to need to be a lot more effective with that if he expects to take this game. Bisu putting the pressure on now, turning it on, turning on the style, turning on the skill, and does Hwaisin have the answers? Is he going to be able to take his revenge? I'm not sure. Hwaisin now trying to retake that expansion in the 10 o'clock position. He does have the advantage of being able to get his forces in, whereas Bisu's forces are limited, and it's just a case of how much damage Bisu's Dragoons can do before they get taken out. Hwaisin now coming in with the siege tanks and blue bodies, blue Dragoon blood littering the floor of the map. Bisu meanwhile sending in a large group of Zealots to resecure that 9 o'clock expansion, and it looks like Bisu has leveled the playing field. Any advantage Hwaisin had early on definitely has been neutralized by Bisu there. Some great attacking StarCraft from the Pro Toss champion. Now Bisu has got Arbiters roaming the map at will, and he does seem to be taking on map control, and Hwaisin does seem to be locked into the top, to the north of the map, and mostly to the top right of the map, and really surrendering this sort of map control to Bisu. And you've got to say that Pro Toss Arbiters give them such a huge advantage. If they can get those recalls in, they can really put pressure on those expansions. They don't need large fleets of drops, and the Terran player really needs a lot of drops. Bisu meanwhile looks like he's putting another drop at that 1 o'clock at that 11 o'clock expansion. 4 Zealots coming in, no recall though, no Arbiters, but this time Hwaisin has got units in play. He's got a couple of vultures and siege tanks that should be able to deal quite effectively with the Zealots, and a Goliath as well. Surprising the Goliath not focusing the shuttle. Oh my god, the extractor burns down. Horrible for Hwaisin, the extractor burns down. EMP from Bisu this time catching that Arbiter in the middle of the map meanwhile, but he really should have repaired that extractor with a couple of more SCVs. He had enough SCVs in play to be able to do that, but he didn't, and he's going to be down a gas. I don't think it's going to hurt him too much. He's got enough expansions up. Meanwhile, he's also resecured his expansion at the 2 o'clock position. Sorry, refinery, not extractor. Terrans have refineries, Zerg have extractors. But Bisu has got a large ground force, and he is controlling the middle of the map. You can see if you look at the mini-map, Bisu's teal or blue is just slightly higher up the map, and Hwaisin's red perhaps has 30% of the top. Bisu's got about, or maybe 40, 60. Now Bisu coming in, trying to break Hwaisin's defense. Great EMPs, preventing Bisu from getting the freeze on the siege tanks. Bisu not able to get a single siege tank freeze, but he has managed to get his Zealots in range of those siege tanks, and he's going to take out, but Hwaisin has got a massive mammoth line of siege tanks behind that initial front fist, and Bisu not able to break, forced to retreat, losing most of his units in the process, and critically for Hwaisin, most of his siege tanks survived. Bisu wasn't able to get in range of Hwaisin's second layer, and the majority of his siege tanks. Bisu now once again trying to make a probe transfer. Bisu has secured that expansion in the 9 o'clock position. He does have more bases. Meanwhile, looks like that shuttle is going to cross paths with that dropship. I'm not sure if Hwaisin has got any forces left. He does have, looks like, a single siege tank in siege mode. Hwaisin dropping Zealots. Meanwhile, Bisu dropping Zealots, Hwaisin dropping siege tank and vulture at that 9 o'clock expo. I'm not sure if this is a trade Hwaisin really wants. Hwaisin forced to use SCVs to defend. Bisu still with a couple of Zealots in play. Hwaisin not microing well here, not multitasking. He is hurting that expansion of Bisu. Bisu meanwhile once again trying to ferret away those ferry away those vultures as they continue to try and find an opportunity to harass. Bisu again coming off better in the drop exchanges. I feel Hwaisin coming off better in the ground battle, but Bisu definitely coming out on top in the drop exchanges, and he's taken out all of Hwaisin's SCVs at that expansion. That was a really ridiculous plan by Hwaisin, taking away a siege tank and the vultures from that expansion at that 1 o'clock base to try and harass that 9 o'clock expansion, and it's cost him because he's really lost a lot of units. He's now transferring more SCVs in there. Those two zealots continue to pummel away, and Hwaisin seems to be ignoring them. If he took all of his SCVs and just focused those zealots, they would get taken down straight away, but it looks like he's going to wait for a lone siege tank to arrive to take them out, and more reinforcements in the form of a dropship. Drops another couple of siege tanks to just clean up that 1 o'clock expansion, but he lost a lot of SCVs here. Meanwhile, Bisu looks like he's coming in with a Arbiter. Hwaisin coming in with the science vessel. He might be able to intercept that Arbiter, and that science vessel is going to spot that Arbiter out. EMP is going to get taken off. EMP from the science vessel intercepting the Arbiter. Hwaisin saves his expansion. That expansion would have been curtained because he only had a couple of siege tanks there. Looks like Hwaisin going for another drop, dropping 2 more siege tanks at that 9 o'clock expansion, keeping the pressure up. Bisu has got the Arbiter in play though, and he should be able to. He's not. I'm sure he doesn't have the energy anyway to be able to use a recall. Second Arbiter coming around to try and affect that recall. Bisu intent on taking that 1 o'clock and the 11 o'clock expansion down. There is a science vessel sitting there. I'm not sure if he's got enough energy for EMP. It doesn't seem to. Meanwhile, Bisu is going to get that recall off.